Welcome everyone to the Nerd Nook. I'm your host, TMNT, with like always is Noah Bailey. So, we're going to start today with an announcement that came out of nowhere. After nearly 15 years, a new Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game was announced.
No, okay, no, hold on. I don't know if I have. I think I've said this on this podcast. I know I've said it many times in real life.
Right.
But Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is still the greatest Dragon Ball Z game ever made by a mile.
Mm.
Like that game had like 100 characters, great combat system, the beam struggles where you like basically break your controllers doing the analog sticks. Like I've lost controllers playing that game.
Really?
It is the greatest, and it felt real. Like you could fly around, you could move like super quick. Like you felt like you were in Dragon Ball Z. You can blow up like buildings and mountains and stuff. You could blow up the planet and change the entire stage. Like it was insane. And it was one of the best, one of the best. And then they just started making different Dragon Ball games where it like wasn't about like because like Xenoverse and like stuff like they weren't bad, but like they're trying to add like these RPG elements and kind of make it more like I get what they were going for, but I don't think that's what people want in a Dragon Ball Z game. Like that's not really. We're just here to get cool characters and go to town fighting each other. Like we're not trying to do this whole like. No, so this is giant. I didn't think this was real. I had to look at like every. I was like, this has to be fake. They wouldn't. Because I've been saying it's one of those things that you're like, everyone's saying they should have done this, so there's no way they're actually smart enough to do it.
Right. It's one of those things where because they pivoted to the Xenoverse games for some reason, which like the Xenoverse games, they have a similar energy where there's a bunch of characters. The story is just Dragon Ball Z again. It's like just the main story again. But just the gameplay, from what I've seen of it, it feels very floaty. Like there's not there's not as much you can really do. It's kind of
it's
bland.
not as much. Yeah, it's not nearly as much fun. Like I remember playing and just feeling upset because I was just like, it feels more first person like adventure game than like Dragon Ball Z beatdown game,
right?
Which I feel like is where Dragon Ball Z is at its best.
Right. So I kind of wonder why they would bother making this other franchise instead of just like re-releasing the first three and then making a new one. Like that's if the main draw is you get to play through the story of Dragon Ball again for like the fifth time, then.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you play through the story of Dragon Ball in literally like every Dragon Ball game, but it's also like, how you do it, I think is what's more interesting. It's like, I'd rather just be a series of fights than just be like, oh, this, and we have to change the future and all and like that. No one cares. That's doing too much. Like, just make the fighting interesting. That's all we care about. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those games that, I mean, first of all, trying to find an original copy now is insane. It's like hundreds of dollars at least, and you can't find them anywhere. And I had one growing up, and I should have kept it. I did not, but whatever.
So I somehow just randomly have like a small collection of PlayStation 2 games because my cousin, he like no longer wanted, like he no longer needed his, so he gave it to me along with some of the games he had. It didn't work. He swore it worked when he gave it to me, but it doesn't. It just the PlayStation.
Which 2, game is it?
Well, like the PS2 is like it would turn on, but like shut off like after like 4 minutes of playing. Like it was something was wrong with it. Like yeah, that's why he wanted to get rid of it. But like
that's one. Yeah.
It in that little collection was like some Star Wars like Star Pilot game, some Spider-Man game. I think Ultimate Alliance 1 is in there, and Budokai Tenkaichi 2. It just in that.
That's still a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
3's the best one, but 2's still pretty. I'm like, look, I got my own PlayStation. I might come now.
Like I never actually got to play it, but I have it. I own the disc.
Hey. Yeah. That's already. I mean, that's more than I could say. But yeah, man. I mean, this was one of those games that if you had a PlayStation 2, you had this game. Like it was this was like one of the best just like fun multiplayer. Just it was just a fun game. There was just like it was just so much you could do with it.
Mm-hmm.
They had every character you could think of. They have characters who don't even fight. Like you know what I mean?
Like,
Like the only any character who has thrown a punch in the entire anime outside of Bulma is a character essentially.
mm.
And it's kind of like yeah, that's pretty. You know what I mean? That's pretty awesome. I mean, they've got different, all the transformations, all the signature moves, right? Like, the voice acting's obviously is really good. Like, it's got everything you need.
Yeah.
It's the best game by far.
So I know in more recent Dragon Ball games, they've sometimes done a thing where like each form of Goku or X character is their own character. How'd they do it? Did they do it where you can power up mid battle, or is it like Goku's own character, Super Saiyan? Like you can power up mid battle?
Well, no, they are. I mean, they are their own character. It's interesting because they had characters based on where they were in the anime. So they have like Goku in like the first season versus like the mid seasons versus like the end of the series, and they each have their transformations. So each transformation was a different character and had a different moveset.
Oh,
but you could if your character was capable. There was like a transformation bar that if it built up, you could transform or go down as needed.
Okay.
But it was only certain characters. So like, you could go up to Super Saiyan or down at any time. But like if you like some characters can transform, but then you can't transform back. So it kind of just depends on the character based on how it works in the show, which is also a really nice touch.
So like if you played a Cell, he could go into Perfect Cell, but like Goku could go back and forth.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. And
yeah,
now, like
awesome.
if you play Super Goku, all the way up to at least basic, if not whatever else they
probably. That's what I'm saying. Probably you can go blue and all this stuff. So like, because they had at the time they had everything. So they had Dragon Ball, they had Z, and they had GT. So I assume they'll just add on. You know what I mean? Just keep everything that worked, and then just add on super stuff.
I think they're gonna have 200 characters.
I mean, they could easily have 150.
Yeah,
easily. So,
I mean, just from the tournament, you could probably have 100 just from that alone from Super.
Right.
So, yeah.
And again, this was one of those games that like super minute characters were whole characters. Every member of the Ginyu Force, all of Frieza's like henchmen, like everybody was a character. All the androids, the side characters from the non-canon movies were characters. Like everybody was a character. So it was just kind of like, yeah, you could have everybody from the Tournament of Power. You could have, all the gods. You could probably, all that stuff. The like angels, everybody pretty much. So, I mean, why not? Like.
Yeah.
I love it. This is the best news I've heard in a long time.
Yeah. Like,
just saying something.
they didn't have a release date or platforms or anything or even gameplay of what it'll look like. Just it's happening. Probably next year or later, but whatever.
Look, I remember saying I'm not gonna get a PS5. This drops on PS5 only. I'm getting it. I'm getting PS5. Like straight up. Like that, this is worth getting. This is worth getting a whole console for, in my opinion.
So you're not going to get it for Spider-Man 2, but you will for this game.
I've been waiting on Spider-Man 2 for 15 years. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Plus, it's like Spider-Man 2. I'm not going to be like, I've already got 2 Spider-Man games right here, so it's like I don't like. Granted, it's going to add new things, but I don't feel like, man, I'm never going to experience that. Like this is a game I haven't played. It's been 3 consoles. So it's like, we got to be up on it. But
right.
This is, like outside of like the only game that like would match this is around like NBA Street back in the day they used to have. They brought that back in 2023. That would be like at the same or level, if not higher, in my opinion. But this is awesome. Anime fans around the world have rejoiced.
Yeah. This might sound like a dumb question, but do you know what Budokai Tenkaichi means?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like a thing that was...
I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, those words are never actually said in the series, and I have no idea what potential translation it is, so
all right.
When I hear those words, all I think of is analog sticks and going. So, yeah, but who cares?
Okay. um, moving right along. So that Batman Cape Crusader show was kind of in has been kind of in limbo for a little while after HBO was like after they did their whole purge of just getting rid of everything that was already finished. They're like they weren't sure if they were gonna keep it or straight up cancel it, shop it around. They have ended up shopping it around, and Amazon has already ordered 2 seasons of the show. So good.
Okay, cool. We know Amazon knows what to do with animation, so
Yeah, yeah, and going ahead and ordering 2 seasons is great. Like you should probably always bet on Batman. It's pretty, it's a decent bet to bet on Batman. Um, Assuming the original idea is still there, Bruce Timm and Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams are all working on it, at least in some
oh
capacity. So
wow.
like, that is a group of people who have made things that people like at some point or another. Like especially Matt Reeves and Batman. Just yeah, do that. um,
Yeah, no, I'm for it for sure. Because yeah, animated Batman's been a while, so I can't think of series wise. I think Beware the Batman is the most recent
as
thing.
far as like solo Batman, I think so because there was a
Yeah.
Justice League Action, which obviously
Mhm.
had Batman in it, but yeah, I think Beware the Batman, the weird CG show. I think that was the last
Yeah.
one.
Again, I go back. Not a terrible show. Just
No,
the animation definitely can bother you, but the actual show wasn't too bad. It was just different.
yeah, that's what I heard about that Green Lantern show as well, and I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know. They
Mhm.
look too weird.
Mhm.
I can't get into it. Same with
No,
Rebels.
Green Lantern.
I just can't get into it. It looks
Yeah,
too
no,
weird.
Rebels. I can't. Yeah, for me, it's the lightsabers with Rebels. It's just they look like
Absolutely.
two giant toothpicks. I can't. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Especially when Darth Vader came, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And then it's just like,
Whatever.
I know it's supposed to be, but it doesn't feel the same.
Yep.
But whatever.
But yeah, Cape Crusader probably 2025 at the earliest. But
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm not sure. They'll probably do a thing that they did with Invincible season 2 and 3, where they're gonna eventually make them both back to back and then release them pretty, you know, sequentially. So like, so take your time with this. Obviously, like you said,
Oh yeah.
Amazon knows what they're doing when it comes to animated stuff. So just yeah, it's I'm sure it'll be at least good. So, um, speaking of a superhero show that'll probably be pretty good, John Bernthal, who played Punisher in the Punisher show, has been
Mhm.
confirmed to play Punisher again in the Daredevil Born Again show for Disney Plus. So,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm. Now there's been like some cat. I didn't watch any of the Daredevil show to be quite honest. Like I've seen clips. I've seen a lot of people rave about it. I understand it's a great show. I didn't get into it. And there's been some things where like certain actors may or may not come back for it. Certain characters might get recast or not show up at all. Like it's still in development. Like it's still like we still don't know a lot about it. So, but we do know that Punisher will be in it. We do know that Jessica Jones will be in it, and obviously Daredevil will be in it. So just so that's a nice core of of uh, of characters that like these people play those characters so well. It would be weird if anyone else played them. I really hope they get Luke Cage, the same guy that played Luke Cage. He looks exactly like Luke Cage.
That's what I'm saying. And again, it's one of those things where you've seen them play the character, you play the character well, and the show had success. So it's like, there's no reason to go out of your way to recast and do all
Mm.
the extra legwork. Like, just do it.
Outside of Iron Fist, you can get rid of him.
I feel like you can keep the actor for Iron Fist and just write the show better.
Yeah, and I think it might not be fair because like Charlie Cox played Daredevil flawlessly. Just I can't remember her name. The lady who played Jessica Jones, fantastic. The one show I actually did watch, I said it, Luke Cage, fantastic. Again, looks the part, acts exactly like that character should act. And then Danny Rand is over there just being like, not how Iron Fist is at all. Doesn't look at all like him. Doesn't wear the mask for most of the show. His powers aren't that impressive in the it's just not what you want out of like compared to all the other stuff that's fantastic. He's just not as good. So if they could bring him back and actually make him good, that'd be cool. But of the ones that they could bring back, if they didn't bring him back, I wouldn't cry too much over that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I think that's coming out sometime next year. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, I know Disney says they're gonna kind of slow down on shows specifically, which I think is a good idea. But
oh yeah,
this is something that people have been excited for. I'll say cautiously optimistic, because obviously people prop the show up as being the best thing Marvel's ever made. I think that's kind of dangerous to do, because like there's no, in their eyes, no matter how good this show is, there's no possible way it's as good as the original Netflix show. Even if it is really good, they're still gonna find things to nitpick about it. But generally speaking, people are just excited to see Charlie Cox play Daredevil again. So.
For sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, they're doing a great job. Like, yeah, just take what's working. In case of things like Iron Fist, like that, tweak it a little bit. Kind of just do the Andrew Garfield route. It's like, it's not necessarily the actor was bad. It's more so what they were given might not have been amazing. So just kind of, and then for the other shows, it was really good anyway. They just got canceled. So it's like, just pick back up,
Yeah. So, cool. How into the Ninja Turtles are you?
Pretty into it.
Did you see?
I wouldn't be like a super fan, but like pretty good.
Yeah. Did you see the trailer for that new
Mayhem
movie?
Oh,
that looks
yeah.
good. It looks good.
Dude, that looks great. Like, I was watching this and I was like, me and my brother were both like, oh, that's going to be stupid good.
Like, I've always had a soft spot for Ninja Turtles stuff. Like, I really got into the 2012 CG animated one. Rise of the Ninja Turtles ended up actually being really good. Like, I was really worried about it early on, but like as the show progressed, it got crazy. I really like the art style of the early 2001, and obviously the classic has a good soundtrack.
Yeah,
so like
that one's.
Like, I mean, also I'm just a sucker for that like aesthetic of 80s shows that are clearly just trying to sell you toys. G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, etc. That's what it's for. Like,
I mean, it is.
That's why they exist.
The commercial series, basically. Yeah, no, I mean, it totally. I mean, you're right, but no. Yeah. I mean, I grew up the Saturday morning cartoon of the early 2000s on the Fox. Oh gosh, that's a throwback. Yep. But yeah, man, like that was my childhood. So like I remember Ninja Turtles for sure, and yeah, the one on Nickelodeon was also really good.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, 2013?
2012, 13, something like that.
2012, yeah, that one was actually pretty solid. So, yeah, I'm definitely always been a fan. And, like, they've had some Turtle games I've played and stuff. Obviously, everyone's played at least one arcade Ninja Turtles game in your life. You got to. Those were always fun, too. But, yeah, I really like this movie. It almost gives me Into the Spider-Verse vibes, which, like, I don't want to jinx it and compare it, but, like, it definitely has a little bit of magic to it. It feels like. So I'm really excited about.
There's definitely been this trend of animated movies from various different studios, at least having a similar vibe. Like that Puss in Boots movie has a similar Into the Spider-Verse vibe. There's been a couple others that just to have that just aesthetic that just like you can tell it's CG, but it almost looks 2D. Also, like it's this weird.
Yeah.
Limbo where it
just
looks
2.5D mix,
yeah, and just all the voice acting is really good. I like how they actually sound like teenagers for once. Like that's never happened, but
they don't sound 30.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because like when you're a kid, you don't think about it because you just assume teenagers sound older than kids.
Right.
But as an adult, you're like, that dude's not a
Right.
teenager.
I love Rob Paulson. He's one of the best voice actors ever. Like if you've watched any cartoon show ever, you've heard this man's voice in something. But even in the 80s, he was still like he was not a teenager. And then when he came back to voice Donatello in the 2012 show, that man is not. The man was already in his 60s. Like that man is old. Like, great, but you can tell he's not a kid. And like obviously they're mutants, so they wouldn't necessarily age like we would. So, but
But then
regardless,
again, why? I mean, but the name implies they would because they're still teenagers. So it's like if they're mutants and they just age how they age, you wouldn't call them teenage mutant ninja. You would just call them mutant ninja. You know what I mean?
right?
Like they're clearly supposed to be teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, and I think people just kind of have this don't. I think it's also the fact that if in any like sitcom or series or movie where actors are playing teenagers, the actors are already like mid-20s. So just
Yeah.
the general concept of the general audience who aren't teens have this image of teens are like act and sound older than they actually are, whereas these people are actually played by, you know, people who are 15. So, and they sound good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm excited. This looks really good, and it just I don't know. It adds to the list of things that I'm just like, oh, that could be awesome
Yeah.
lately. So I'm really looking forward to this.
And I keep doing this, but every single time I hear Seth Rogen producing X thing, I'm like, oh, that's going to be dumb. But like, no, why do I keep doing that? Because The Boys is great, Invincible is great, this looks great. It's like he made all these things, and like they're all good. Yeah. And Giancarlo Esposito is playing Baxter Stockman.
Yes.
Yes.
I saw, dude, the cast was great. I saw so many people on there. I was like, oh yeah, like yeah, no, John. I was like, because anything he's in is goaded
Yeah.
automatically. So
Jackie Chan is Splinter. Like,
yes.
yep.
Hold on, I'm gonna look at the official cast list because it was like a lot of like A tier. I was like, this is gonna be like. Whenever there's really good casting, you already like what it looks like. You're like, okay, this is gonna be good.
I think the guy who plays Gumball in the most recent season of Amazing World of Gumball is voicing one of the turtles, which is good. Like he's a great.
He knows how to. Yeah, he knows how to play a kid. At least sound like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many. Okay, there's the kids. I don't recognize any of them, but yeah, Jackie Chan is in it. Hannibal Buress, Giancarlo Esposito, John Cena, Ice Cube, apparently.
Right.
That's interesting. Paul Rudd, I remember that. Post Malone, really?
Sure.
This has a
Hannibal
lot
Buress.
of.
Like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is.
This has got a lot. This is a pretty insane cast for an animated Ninja Turtles movie. I ain't gonna lie. So I'm all for it, though. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's coming out in August, and it's as long as the trailers, don't show everything about the movie and still make it look good.
I mean, this came out of virtually nowhere, right? Like,
it was one of those things where it was announced like 2 years ago that 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 Seth Rogen was going to be making a Turtles thing, and then just kind of nothing for a while, and then like, oh, this at the Kids Choice Awards, a little teaser for it happened. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
And now all of a sudden you're just like, oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's adding it to the list. Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to play a game?
Bring it on.
Time for another round of, wait, is this for real? Pokemon Evolution Volume 3.
Oh gosh.
There are over 1,000 of these things, so I thought of 15 more. I'm sorry, 10 more.
I know. Oh no.
So, just a reminder, I'm going to say the Pokemon and then explain how it evolves, or what it evolves from, or some element of how it evolves. And every single word of what I say has to be true in order for it to be real.
Got it.
If like a move name is wrong or a level number is wrong, that is false. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Love Disc. Love Disc evolved into Alola Mola when leveled up, knowing the move Heart Stamp.
What are these names? Oh my gosh.
Love Disc is a heart-shaped fish Pokemon introduced in Generation 3. Alola Mola is another heart-shaped fish Pokemon introduced in Generation 5.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna say no. There's too many variables there.
That's right. They don't evolve into each other at all.
Yep. Well,
They just
there you
made
go.
another weird pink heart-shaped fish in Generation 5. That's
Huh?
unrelated to Love Disc.
They just made another one that looks the same and is like bigger, but they didn't connect them at all.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
really stupid.
And Love Disc has the stats of a first stage Pokemon. Alola Mola has the stats theoretically like of something that, you know, that could be evolved from something. But no, they're just Gen 5 is full of those things where it's just like this Pokemon looks kind of similar to this thing from before, but it's not actually related. But it's anyway. That
Do you
would
think they just forgot the Pokemon they made and just made a new one and were like, oh crap?
probably. I don't know.
Right?
I mean, Love Disc is one of the most forgettable Pokemon, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just designed this thing and was like, oh, we already made that. Oops. It's like,
The whole development team's like, crap.
none of
We
us
all
remember
forget
this guy.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like every industry needs like a super nerd to be like, no, wait, that doesn't work with this because we've already done this or that.
Yep. And Heart Stamp is a move introduced in Generation 5 that it learns. I feel like that was right there. It was right there for you to learn this move and evolve using this move, but whatever.
They probably were to be, but then they forgot to set up the material for them to work together or something. I don't know. Somebody was supposed to do it, and they said, "Oh, I'll do it on Monday," and then Monday never came.
Right. Okay, this next one is a little long, so just be focused. Tyrogue. Tyrogue evolves into Hitmonchan if defense is the highest stat. It evolves into sorry. Sorry. Let me back up. I wrote the same thing twice. Tyrogue evolves into Hitmonlee if defense is the highest stat. It evolves into Hitmonchan if attack is its highest stat. And evolves into Hitmontop if attack and defense are equal when it gets to level 20. All of these are level 20, and then those are the stats.
Wow.
Hitmonlee if defense is the highest stat. Hitmonchan if his attack is higher.
No.
Hitmontop if attack and defense is highest.
No, that's not right, is it?
Not technically. It's Hitmonlee if attack is highest, Hitmonchan if defense is highest.
Okay.
Hitmontop was correct.
Yeah, no.
But yeah.
I thought that was completely wrong because I remember hearing about those Pokemon and that wasn't at all how that was aren't they fossils or something or in the person or something like that?
No, they
or something like that.
When you go into the fighting dojo in Saffron City after you beat it's not a gym leader but the fighting master guy, he gives you one of them, either Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan, and then in Generation 2 they added the baby Pokemon Tyrogue who evolves into either of them or Hitmontop. So they weren't related, but then they became related.
I feel so unprepared. I know nothing about these Pokemon.
It's fine.
Okay. Well, 2 for 2 ain't bad. I'll still take it.
Okay. So, number 3, Smoochum. Smoochum evolves into Jinx when it reaches level 30.
Isn't that easy? Uh, I should know this, but I definitely don't. Is it that easy? There has to. No,
Is
isn't
it?
that easy?
Is it?
I don't know. I'm gonna say that's true.
It's true. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Even though they added a bunch of baby Pokemon in Generation 2, like Pichu, Cleffa, Igglybuff, I think that's it. Those three, they evolve with friendship. But Smoochum, Elekid, and Magby, they just evolve at level 30 for some reason. Yep.
Cool.
Okay. Porygon Z. Porygon Z evolves when you trade Porygon holding a dubious disc.
Oh. Who finds this stuff? How would you ever know that? You would have to like break in the game's coding. No one actually found that naturally.
You're right.
Oh god. What's the one? I don't remember that one because that's the one that looks like the shapes. I'm gonna say no. That seems too. The item you're holding is probably wrong.
You're 4 for 4. The item is correct. However, Porygon Z evolves from Porygon 2 being traded holding a dubious disc.
Oh my god.
Porygon evolves into Porygon 2 holding an upgrade, but then Porygon 2 evolves into Porygon Z holding a dubious disc.
How does anyone know that?
Fun fact, Porygon Z is the only Pokemon that can be evolved twice while still at level 1.
Whoa.
Yeah, unless that's changed in recent years, I can't think of any other examples. Because it's just a trait evolution twice, you can just have a level 1 Porygon, just trade it twice until level 1.
Can you get a level 1?
From an egg?
Unless it's a starter?
Yeah, well, starters start at level 5. I'm pretty sure eggs starting at level 4. Sorry, eggs starting in Generation 4, they hatch at level 1, and I'm pretty sure you can get Porygon eggs. So.
Okay, I didn't think about that. I don't know. I guess I don't. I'm such a casual guy.
Hey, you got everything right so far, though. So.
I know, but like none of it I've actually known. I've 100% just been guessing. Like I have no idea. But it's like, yeah, it's weird because like I'll hear a Pokemon that I know I've seen before. I know what it is, but I'm like, I have no idea how the evolution works.
And like,
half of them are like, you have to like, make sure you had, chili for lunch, and then like, you gotta like, all this stuff, and it's just like, no, there's no way you could know that. But
because in theory,
Porygon right Z, foot, don't forget it. Like
Porygon Z could be like a branch evolution. Like Porygon 2 is if you do this thing. Porygon Z is if you did this thing. But no, it's Porygon Z is an evolution of Porygon 2. Yeah.
So can you just? So Z is an evolution of. So you can't like just switch them back and forth. It's like.
Yeah, it's
still evolution up.
Yeah, it is an evolution. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially the way it works is like Porygon 2 has really high defenses and pretty high special attack, whereas Porygon Z, when it evolves, it takes away from its defenses and gives it to a special attack and speed. So essentially, they both serve very different purposes, but they are evolutions of each other. Yeah.
Okay.
Number 5, Hisuian Electrode, which is an electric grass version of Electrode introduced in Legends Arceus. Despite normal Voltorb evolving at level 30, Hisuian Voltorb evolves when exposed to a Leaf Stone.
That sounds right, but let's look at the fine print. Level 30. That's right. I'm gonna say no.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well.
every now and then regional variants just like evolve differently than their other form. One example being Sandslash. Normally it evolves like level 24 or something like that, but in Gen 7 when Alolan Sandslash, who is part ice, it evolves with an ice stone. Yeah.
Part ice, casually.
Yep. Okay, next one. Happiny. Happiny is the baby form of Chansey who evolves after gaining a level while in the daycare.
Ooh. Forgot about the daycare. That does sound weird enough to want to make sense, though. I was like, that's true.
No, that's false.
No, false. Well,
No.
I'm starting off so well. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, it just evolves while holding an oval stone. Just leveled up while holding the certain item that I think is the thing where every Happiny you catch in the wild is automatically guaranteed to hold one or something, or have like a high chance of holding one.
So it kind of like holds it without holding it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, because Chansey obviously has like an egg in its little pouch, and Happiny doesn't have an egg, but it has a stone to like pretend like it has an egg, but then that causes it to evolve. I don't like Happiny very much. It's a very dumb Pokemon.
I mean, there's bound to be some dumb ones.
Yeah, with 1,000, there's a couple dumb ones. Sunkern. Sunkern evolves into Sunflora when exposed to a sunstone.
It's too easy. It's probably not a sunstone. It might be something else. Because it already has sun in the name, so it's like you wouldn't add more sun. You'd probably add like a leaf stone or something. I'm going to say no.
It's real.
Why am I so bad at this now?
That was an easy one.
I know, but it was like they both were like had sun in the name, so I was like, no, that's too easy. Like that's. See, the thing is, I'm so worried about the wording. It's like the layups are just like killing me. Like,
that was decent logic, but way off. All right, you'll get this next one.
I won't though.
Staryu. Staryu evolves into Starmie when exposed to a moonstone.
Yes.
No, Waterstone.
No. Yeah. How?
I don't know. Staryu is literally like a fragment of a comet that fell from the sky, so you'd think it would be a moonstone, but no.
Yes.
It's water. It's already water type. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's what I mean. I kind of get that. Wait, is it? I don't know. Whatever. Pokemon makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't personally really understand that one either. Like, I get that kind of early on there were a pretty like high amount of Moonstone evolutions. For some reason, Nidoking and Nidoqueen evolved with a Moonstone. I feel they should just be an evolution like at a level or something. But you also have Chansey and Clefable you can catch early on. So like I get they didn't want too many of those, but Starmie being literally a space rock should probably be a Moonstone. But whatever.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how that would qualify as literally anything else, but all right.
It's a normal water stone.
Yeah, it's like, doesn't that make sense? It's like, no. No, it doesn't.
Okay. Next up. Munchlax. Munchlax evolves into Snorlax when you feed a Munchlax enough Poffins to max out its hunger meter and then level it up before the hunger meter runs out.
First of all, I've never heard of a hunger meter, so just based on that alone, I'm already skeptical. But then again, it's probably I just never heard of it. But I'm gonna still say no because that doesn't make any sense.
The hunger meter is not a thing.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, again, it could totally be real. Right? I wouldn't know. I was like, I feel like I'm not that bad.
I think there might technically be a mechanic where you can only feed a Pokemon a certain number of Poffins or whatever food item is in this game. like you can only feed them a certain number of this in a certain period of time. But there's not like a meter. There's like no like practical
It's some kind
application.
of invisible mechanic or
Yeah,
something. It wouldn't.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
as even though I almost guarantee if Munch Life were released now, they would do something ridiculous like that. But no, it's just friendship. It's just normal friendship. Okay. This next one I may have done before, but it's probably one of my all-time favorite evolution methods, so I had to include it. Um, Shedinja. Shedinja appears after Ninkata evolves into Ninjask if you have at least one spare Pokemon in your party and one spare Pokeball in your bag and an open slot in your party.
It's so stupid. That's dumb enough that that makes sense though. Does that work? Is that true?
Yep, that's real. Yep.
How would anybody like knew that? Like, first of all, when do you ever have an open space in your party? That's just
You
not.
you catch Ninkata pretty early on in Generation 3, so I guess like you don't necessarily have six people in your you don't necessarily have a full party, I
But
guess.
like I get it, but it's also like, I mean, if you're playing to win, you would probably get a full party as fast as possible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like Shedinja, it it's really only an evolution by technicality because it it is the product of this Pokemon evolving, but it's not. It's but like the Pokemon like Ninkata evolves in a Ninjask, and the Shedinja just shows up. It's a weird ghost bug that's just also there. And in Generation 3, Shedinja knew all of the same attacks. Even like so, let me put it this way: Ninjask, when you evolve it, it learns like three moves, like Swords Dance, Fury Cutter, and like something else when it evolves. And in the code, it's supposed to be that Shedinja knows all the moves that Ninkata knows, like as it evolves. But instead, the way the coding works, Shedinja shows up after Ninjask actually evolves, so it just copies Ninjask's moves. Even though Shedinja can't learn these moves, it just has them. Does that make any sense?
No.
That's fine. It's a weird Pokemon.
I tried following that and I got lost.
That's fine. That's fine. Essentially, like even back then, they it was very ambitious for them to try to make this thing work, and it kind of did, but not really. Like there's certain moves that Shedinja now can't learn, even, but if you were to like import one from Generation 3 all the way up to now, it can know these moves, even though it can't actually learn them now because of that weird glitch. So yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So the last little topic I have is my roommate and I over the last couple of weeks, we have been watching all the Indiana Jones movies.
Hmm.
Neither of us had seen any of them before. It's just a blind spot for both of us. We just like let's try them. And weirdly enough,
Okay.
they're not on Disney Plus. They're on Amazon Prime. Weirdly enough, like these are somewhere, but not the people who own
I
whatever.
mean, yeah, at least they're somewhere.
And just basic overview of the franchise. I like the movies quite a bit. Some I like a lot more than others, but none of them were like bad. Even the fourth one I thought was actually pretty fun. Um,
Hmm.
but like they're not necessary. I wouldn't personally like develop like my entire personality around them like some people do. They're not like, to some people these movies are their Star Wars, and I don't understand that. It's like they're fine,
No,
but not
I
like
mean,
that good, you know.
well, no, and I mean, I agree with that because like I grew up watching them because like my parents liked them growing up, so like we,
Mm.
because it was like, oh, it's history, it's educational kind of, but not
Okay.
really. But right, like clearly a stretch just so you could watch them with your kids and not feel bad. But
Uh,
I mean, but it was kind of one of those things where like, yeah, I grew up watching them and my brother really enjoyed them, and like the theme music always is good and
oh yeah.
indie and all the stuff. But it's also like, it they're they're kind of like they're fun and they're good, but they're not epics. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like it's a nice story, but they're not like they're very good movies to like know because they're like well known and they're like there's a lot of references to them. So like anytime someone does it, anytime somebody does the joke or like top men or so, and then like or something like that or like just
Mm.
any
Or
Indiana
to like
Jones joke.
slide under a door and like grab something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
slide the
yeah.
door, grab the hat, anything, just anytime anything large is coming at you, just say, oh no, it's Temple of Doom. Like, just like, just kind of
Yeah.
whatever. So, but again, it's not like they're iconic moments, but I don't think they're iconic movies, if that makes
Right.
sense.
So I so it these movies exist in this weird like space where like yes, the first three are revered as, like one of the great trilogies of
Oh
all
yeah.
time, and then
Oh yeah.
the fourth one exists and people don't like it. And
Not
like
really.
me watching them back to back to back to back, I was like that. After finishing, I was like, it kind of went off the rails a little bit with aliens actually existing and the whole, literally surviving a nuke thing. Sure, but as far as like the actual adventure and the characters and story, like I thought it was about as good as the others. Like it's I thought it was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, see, you're kind of yeah. I think because you don't have the nostalgia factor, I think
Yep.
you're not like biased, and like I don't personally. I think the fourth one kind of has like I don't think it's like I'm not saying it's as bad as like the Star Wars sequels, but it kind of had that same feeling to me when I first saw it. It was just kind of like
Mm.
they're clearly just making this for the money. There's no reason this needs to be made, and also this doesn't have nearly the same amount of magic as the original does.
That is
But
true. However, because Steven Spielberg is probably the best director ever, like legitimately,
yeah,
he
no,
just
yeah, I mean,
there's just something about the way he makes movies that makes them feel timeless to the point where this movie came out in 2008, yet the way it was shot, just the way it feels almost like it came out in the 80s, or at least like
right.
early 90s. Like it feels like it's from that same era.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of ideas that they kind of just brought back or like at least updated, but made it look like it was done the way they used to. So, which
Right.
is smart.
And there were some returning characters, but it wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't like the, some things nowadays for like if you reboot or make a sequel to something, every other second you have like a weird reference to the original. Like they don't really do that, which I was kind of surprised by because I have a feeling the new one that's coming out soon is gonna do a lot of that where it's like every other moment he's gonna be like referencing something from a previous movie or like I don't know. I feel like that might happen with the new one, but as far as like the fourth one goes, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Um,
Hmm.
that being said, I'm just gonna just go ahead and break down like my top four because no one asked, but I'm gonna give it anyway. At the easy bottom, Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom. It
Really?
Yes, I feel like obviously the first one is iconic. The first one like established this character as in a way that like I said is iconic. Is the story is very simple. It's very just easy to get into. And then the second one, the fact that it's a prequel kind of messes with my brain a little bit because it takes place before Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there's this like Asian kid character who follows him around, like calls him his buddy, and like
Yeah.
not that the kid was bad. He was a little annoying. I thought if he was in any more of the movie, it would have ruined it. And he also, yeah, that kid doesn't show up in future stuff. So like, who is he? Like, where did he come from? Did he like how did he befriend this child and then stuck around with him for this adventure, but then nothing else after? It wasn't even like
You don't like
referenced
short.
in any other movie. Um,
You don't like short round.
no, I think he's fine. It's just he's just in this weird place where because the second movie is a prequel to the first one. I'm wondering
Yeah,
like
I know.
where is this kid in the first one?
No, agreed. But I mean,
And also the first one, yes, the like the end of the movie, the Ark of the Covenant opened up, and spirits like suck people's souls, and
yeah,
like that did happen. But then the second one had like this blood god cult that like ripped people's hearts out, but they were still alive until they were sacrificed to the blood god. Like that, I feel that just kind of that made a leap that I wasn't ready for in this more or less grounded universe. Like these people just exist in this. Like it almost feels it. I don't really know if it was like if it's based on any actual religion or if it's just like a standard 80s kind of racist like depiction of native other countries natives people. It's like oh
I
they're
mean, it was the '80s, so
that's probably it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
it's like oh like we're just gonna make this movie about Indiana Jones stealing this relic from these ancient barbarians who worship this actually real blood god. Like, okay. And just the overall action is overall like I don't know. I think the second one is easily the most forgettable. It's the one that if I'm watching them again, it's also the least consequential. Like nothing happens in that movie that really changes the character and changes the world enough to like matter going forward. Because the third one references Raiders like a couple times. It references the Ark of the Covenant. Like at least one character, like some characters come back, whereas in the second one, we never even see him in. As far as I remember, we never see him in the school as a professor. We never see like any of those characters in that one. Like it's just an indie adventure, which is fine, and like almost honest. It kind of almost has this like James Bond esque feel to it, which is interesting. Like it's almost like they were trying to be like Indiana Jones is this character we can kind of put into any situation it works, and they realized like it. Let's pivot back to him just being, this archaeologist guy,
archaeologist.
and then see where it goes from there, and that worked better.
Yeah, like keep it. Keep what works here. Let's not do too much with it.
Yeah, and also the female companion in the second one annoyed me way more than the others. She was not my favorite
Which
character.
one? Oh gosh, which one is that? The blonde one? Is that which
Yes.
one is that one? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember any of their names, but I remember the blonde one specifically was the one that I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah.
one can, she can go.
Yeah.
But
But again, he ends the movie like seemingly in a relationship with her, but then 5 years later, never referenced ever again. Like, all right.
well, to be fair, I mean, you would say the same thing about James Bond for the most part.
Yeah, which is kind of like where that connection came from, where every movie he's
Yeah.
just swooning over the first girl he sees in every town.
Yeah.
Even if they're literal Nazis, like, yeah. Okay. um, but yeah, Temple of Doom, easy bottom. Still a like fine movie. It's the one I'd be least likely to rewatch. Followed by what is it called? Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve the flack that it gets, like at least all of it. There is some ridiculous stuff. Like I said, him surviving a nuke in a fridge, it was a lot to take into the first 10 minutes of your movie. Aliens actually existing. Okay, and they coming from a different dimension.
Shia LaBeouf for reasons.
Shia LaBeouf was not that bad actually. I feel like the characterization he had worked for the era the movie was set in and just the kind of character he was. Whereas in something like Transformers, where he's supposed to be this like cool protagonist guy who's just screaming all the time, like it's just that what they this yeah the script he was given was not good. Whereas here, his dynamic with Indy was a lot better than I thought it would be. Just his overall role in the movie was it wasn't like you could take him out and not a lot would change, which I think is fine. But just the fact of him being Indiana Jones's biological son like is like an interesting dynamic, but it's not like they thankfully they didn't in the movie where it's like, oh, you are the next Indiana Jones. They kind of teased that, but like no, Indy still took the hat back at the end. So like we're not doing that here, which I think was good. um, but yeah, just like the overall adventure I thought was very cool. The like the um the villains of this one being like Soviets was a natural next step from Nazis, even though like they weren't like they the their relationship with I know in the 50s, communist Russia was like the big enemy at the time, but they weren't really like antagonistic per se, at least to America. But whatever. Like as far as like making a movie set in the 50s, that's like the villain, sure.
Yeah. I
And
mean, the Cold War was going till like what the 90s,
I
so
think it was
like it's the same
89,
thing.
90, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But like every movie back then, whether it's Rocky or whatever, it was always the Russians.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah, except for Indiana Jones, which was Nazis. Yeah.
well, yeah, but I mean, they
Mm. Um, yeah, like I think again, just the way it's shot, just the way it's not in your face about references. They make a note of certain actors who had died in real life, like some of his professor friends who had died. There's other people who had tagged along. Like he mentions, you know, it's been a while since we've done our last great adventure. Even these people aren't even here to see it anymore. Like that's a nice touch without being in your face about like these people really matter to the franchise. Like these, like Star Wars kind of does a lot now. Like Mandalorian, like I love the Mandalorian, but almost every other shot is something like that, where it's like, hey, this is the actual R5 unit that Luke that Luke didn't take in Episode 4. Like, isn't that cool? It's like kind of, I don't know.
yeah, no, I get it.
It's like it's not nothing, but it's not really worth anything either. But they didn't do
Yeah,
that here.
yeah.
um, and I feel like you can just really tell that Harrison Ford really, really likes playing Indiana Jones, because I know this movie was in 2008, but almost every single movie outside of the original Indiana Jones, even Blade Runner, he was like, even back then, he was still just kind of like, I'm just kind of doing my thing, doing this movie just because, I'm Harrison Ford, I'm popular. But like when he's playing Indiana Jones, even in 2008, he was in it. He was into it. And then when he came back for Han Solo, it was like, I'm just here to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he was fine, but like he didn't give his. And just from the trailers for the new one, you can just tell he loves playing Indiana Jones.
He's feeling well. I think it's because, well, for one, I think because it's his.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no Indiana Jones without him. Like, you can do Star Wars without Han Solo, but you can't do Indiana Jones without Indiana Jones. And
Yes.
I think even though Star Wars is by far more popular, I think that was all. Indiana Jones was always his favorite because this was kind of his franchise.
Mm-hmm. Right. Um, yeah, the fourth one, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I thought it was like, you know, about average for standard Indiana Jones affair. Not quite as good as Raiders, but still like as far as like a person who has no nostalgic attachment to the franchise, pretty good. And then obviously Raiders, classic, like, um, like the the action is it's good, not as good as Last Crusade. Just there was 8 years between those movies, but just like essentially, how do I put it this way? So essentially, in my head, Raiders and the Last Crusade are kind of the same movie in a lot of ways. Like basic set pieces are very similar. Like obviously characters are different, like but the overall themes are very similar. Like the set pieces happen at similar points throughout the movie. The movie ends with the villain doing something wrong and exploding, or like disintegrating, and then
Something, yeah,
yeah,
melting, whatever.
whatever. um, like it's like they're both very very good, but like if they both could exist as just like a standalone movie,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd be fine. Like if the original didn't exist and it was just The Last Crusade, it would
That's a great movie.
it'd be a great movie. It would be like it also has the added benefit of that movie introduced like the start of the movie introducing him as a kid and like oh that I'm not even talking about this movie yet necessarily, but like that scene where he's like where that like villain guy like gives him his hat and like raises it back up and like and it cuts to modern day and that's such a good scene.
Transition.
Yes. So like that movie starting like essentially showing how he became Indiana Jones. Like you don't even need the first two for that to work, but because Raiders already introduced the character so solidly, like that has even more like impact to it. Um, but Raiders is still a very very good movie in its own right. I just feel like me personally, if I were to just watch one movie, it would be Last Crusade. Most because
Okay.
like if I were to because like I said, very similar movies, but Raiders just or sorry, Last Crusade is just it's just has the benefit of being more updated for the time it was in. Just overall, I feel just more going on, which definitely helps. More characters, just more time with Indy. Really, just I feel like although Raiders is very good, Last Crusade is just leaps and bounds a much better movie. And if it was just that movie as the entire franchise, I think I'd be very satisfied. Like, not that the others are necessarily that bad, but that movie, I feel like it just of like I think you could watch that movie and understand why anyone would like this franchise. Whereas like I feel people could kind of nitpick Raiders if they really wanted to. They could obviously nitpick the other two, but Last Crusade is a very very solid movie. So yeah, that's
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, Last Crusade, very solid movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I need to see it again because I think that's the only one I only saw once.
Mm.
So I probably need because I know I've seen the other ones. I mean, we had them on VCR back in the day. I've seen them on like TBS or Spike or whatever. It used to come on all the time and like. But yeah, I think I guess I got to give it another chance. 'Cause I just kind of threw it in the whatever it's been when it's been 30 years. It's like are we really doing this again? But
Mm.
I didn't give it another fair shake.
Yeah, like I would definitely recommend Last Crusade again. It's yeah, like I said, even though like if I had watched them back to back to back, I maybe wouldn't have like picked up on the connection nearly as strong. But like I said, basic set pieces happen at very similar points. There's even like a scene where Indy like comes up onto a convoy, and then a scene happens of him taking out the convoy. It's like at like about the 2/3 mark of the movie, and then the villains capture him, and they go to the finale, and then they get. It's very similar. Looks good. Very good.
They know what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm still not like excited for the fifth one, especially since I don't think Spielberg is directing it, which I thought was the strength of of the other four. Just the style of those movies is so good. Um, but my at least general curiosity in the franchise is a lot higher now that I've actually seen them. So
Yeah, the
I'll
new
probably see it
ones
at some
being
point.
yeah the new ones being directed by James Mangold,
Oh,
who is yeah
I know that name.
so he's that's the guy from
Logan.
Logan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he made a good movie or
Okay,
two.
so I'm like, well, let's see, Logan,
I don't
Ford
like the
versus
Wolverine,
Ferrari.
but Ford vs
Oh
Ferrari
yeah,
is good. Um,
well, Walk the Line, interesting. The Greatest Showman. Oh
that was
wow,
him, huh?
I
He
like
he
that
likes Hugh
one.
Jackman. Okay.
He does like Hugh Jackman. Let's see, looks like all the ones I've ever heard of.
Okay.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah. I will say the Dial of Destiny is not like it's not like that. It's a better title to me than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. At least it's less wordy. But like it's not like The Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, Dial of Destiny. I don't know. It's not as like you
It
know
doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't sound like something you would be able to just like say it without saying Indiana Jones and people would get
right.
it.
Raiders. You just say Raiders or Last Crusade.
Yeah, yeah, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Temple of Doom. It's
Dial of
funny because
Destiny.
Temple of Doom is like that one. I think has the most iconic title, but I think that movie is probably
Yep.
one that, other than the rolling ball scene, that like
That's
that.
only in the first one. Rolling Balls in the first one.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's the beginning of the first one.
I could have sworn. See,
Yep.
this is how you know I need to see the movies again. I could have swore that was the opening for the second one.
Nope.
Maybe I'm just lying.
Nope.
Maybe I think I've been using that reference wrong. I think somebody messed it up for me because
Huh.
like something was like, you know that I don't know. Have you played the Crash Bandicoot games?
Yeah. At least
Yeah.
I know of them. Yeah.
There's a series of levels where there's a giant snowball rolling after you, and then every
Mm.
time it happens, I always say somebody said, "Oh, it's Temple of Doom," and I always say, "Oh, it's Temple of Doom," now. And I'm like, I think they messed me up.
Mm.
So I think now it's oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
It feels
I'm
right.
such a
Like
casual.
you're in a
It
big
does
temple
feel
of
right,
doom, and the bowling ball seems pretty doomy. But
right? I'm such a
no,
casual.
it's in the little like opening movie before the movie of the first one. Like it's just yeah.
Because that's the one where he swipes the like golden
Yeah.
idol and like the weighted pressure or
Yep.
whatever,
That's
right?
that's the first
It
one.
is. See, I know that's the first one, but I didn't know that. How did?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Alfred Molina is actually in that first movie.
I have to see it again because I
Yeah.
don't remember him at all.
He's
But then
only
again,
in like the little intro bit where like he's with Indy when they're going into that temple,
oh,
and
is
then
he the guy who gets like impaled on the
yes,
wall?
yes,
Okay, yeah, no wonder I didn't remember him. He
yeah.
wasn't in there for very long. Yeah, I forgot about. Yeah, 'cause I remember somebody got messed up. I didn't know it was Alfred Molina.
Yeah,
But then again, when I first saw that, I don't think I knew who that was.
I
So,
no. If I hadn't seen Spider-Man recently, I would not have recognized that
mm.
name. But yeah, it's a franchise I overall do recommend. But like,
Oh yeah,
it's if people who hype it up as like one of the
it is
mm,
one of the
it,
biggest like
it
franchises and
it
movies
is
for
it
sure.
is. But like, if you're an adult and you're watching it, knowing all these people who have like extremely high praises for it, you may be slightly disappointed by its overall good, but not like blow your mind good, you know.
Okay.
And some people might say the same thing about Empire Strikes Back or whatever. If you didn't watch it as a kid, it might not
Oh,
have the same. Like that's just how life is.
that
You
is
just
just how. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
the thing is, like, I always go back to the SpongeBob thing. SpongeBob is amazing,
Mm,
but I have noticed people who didn't grow up watching SpongeBob as adults trying to watch it don't get it.
right.
And it's kind of one of those things where if you missed it as a kid, you just missed it forever.
Yep.
So, it's just catching it at the right time is really important. I think that's the same for these movies because, like, even if you didn't, obviously we didn't grow up in the 80s, but,
Yeah.
so, I saw them as a kid. So I kind of just grew up with them and watched them. And I just liked it just because when you're a kid, everything's cool.
Mm. I
So,
will say in Temple of Doom, I did not need a a very extended scene of a giant pit of who knows what bugs. Just,
Oh yeah.
I did not need that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
There's always like either a bunch of snakes or scorpion. There's always something just
mm,
like
like I would much rather take the pit of snakes over a pit of. No.
fair enough.
Like I don't want scorpions either, but at least there's like I don't know, like I mean, even the movie, they're like the big ones are actually less venomous, so it's fine. So
Fine.
I don't care if none of those bugs will actually bite you. I don't. No, no, burn them all. Okay, I think that's everything I have to talk about. Do you have anything else you want to discuss or bring up?
Now all I had was Dragon Ball Z and Ninja Turtles, so you covered that already.
All right. So with that, we will see you all next time.
Take care.